it doesn't particularly matter to me who wins the race, but to be around the people, the vendors, fans, why they come, get more fans there, how you get more diverse. Now that's exciting. So those 30 people had a great time, but at the same time, they learned a lot about new opportunities for business.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome to the My Future Business Show. Today I'm on the line with Denise Meridith. Now Denise and I are going to be talking about some amazing things that she's doing with her business called World's Best Connectors. But before we do that, Denise, I'd love to learn a little bit about your long and illustrious career, because it's very impressive looking through your bio. There's so much that you've done. Now, before we jump into the core of that part, what are you up to right now? What do you love doing when you're not working and things like that?
Up to right now, well, the World's Best Connectors is sort of the culmination. You talk about a long career. This finally puts together everything I've always wanted to do into one set. And so we'll get into more detail on that later. But right now, you talk about what I like to do. Cruising. I like oceans. Grew up in New York City, spent a lot of time in DC. And I'm going on a cruise later this week.
Fantastic.
So I always preach to people, you should play as hard as work.
Of course, yes.
And I try to make that happen. So.
Well, it's funny because I think it's a good dovetail into the core of the conversation. You talk about the 5 C's, and I'd love to learn a bit more about that. But first, more on the cruising. Are these long cruises or are they weekend things? How long do you normally go away?
I think you need to go to at least a week.
At least a week to wind down?
Yeah, you got it. 3 days, 3 days, you're just like ready to go, and it's time to get off the ship.
Yeah, what do they say? I like to do a whole heap of nothing all at once.
Yeah, that's right. 7 days. By the 3rd day, you're relaxed.
Yes.
And you enjoy at least 4 days. On the other hand, it can't be too long for me because I have a short attention span. So 10 days might be too much cruising.
Just on that, where is the nicest place that you think you've been whilst cruising?
Cruising, I think, nicest, most interesting was last year I went Italy. I went on a cruise through the Mediterranean. So it stopped in Italy and France and very nice places. But my favorite is Caribbean.
Of course.
It's more relaxed. It's fun. Food is great. The Mediterranean one is very serious.
Oh, yes. Different culture.
Going to the Vatican and
oh, yes.
things like that,
yes.
Which is great. It was something I always wanted to do. It was on my bucket list. But just to have fun, Caribbean is the best. Eastern Caribbean in particular.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. Now, look, I'm looking to my right-hand side, could be your left, depending on how you see me here, but there's a bio in front of me on one of my screens, and it's absolutely incredible. You've been in leadership positions throughout your entire career, some amazing things that you've managed, and, you've got multiple degrees in learning. I'd love to learn a little bit more about those degrees and whether or not they're actually something that you still use and lean on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting. I started out, grew up in New York City. I started out pre-vet. My mother was a big animal lover. And but then when I got to Cornell University, these are the bad old days. They weren't really letting women be vets.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't know that beforehand. And my parents always said, you could do anything. So that hurdle we couldn't get over. So I switched to wildlife biology. So because there weren't any women wildlife biologists either, but they didn't say there couldn't be. So that was a big difference. And I got a degree in wildlife biology from Cornell. So I say I have an animal degree from the East Coast. Then many years later on the West Coast, I got my MPA from University of Southern California. And I think you need both. The people degree and the animal degree have been very helpful to me in a lot of different ways. And also the fact that I've lived in so many different places. So understanding a lot of different cultures, because cultures are not just ethnic related or country related,
yep.
but very much, as you know, city, because you've been around too, it's been city related. So
Yep.
I've
Yep.
learned to deal with a lot of different attitudes, a lot of different cultures. Um, and watching animals, you always learn what you hope people will be like.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, they're very logical. Everything happens to animals is meant to be, and
Uh, uh,
um, I always aspire for that with people as well. So
yes, they seem to
it's
have a far more simplistic view, which is very, very straight line. This is what I want. This is how
exactly,
I'll go and get it.
exactly. And we can learn a lot from nature. One thing I talk about is diversity.
Hmm.
Biodiversity in nature is strong.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
hybrids are strong. Now, if we could only get the world to think that way, that the more diverse we are, the better off we'll be.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your career itself. You've been leading up in multiple government sectors, private sectors as well. Share a little bit about your career background and how that was for
Okay.
you.
Okay. After Cornell, 2 weeks out of Cornell, I got a job with the federal government, which was pretty. I had different options. Well, you don't have too many options having a wildlife degree. So, but state government is very hard to get in there. Those people never leave, so you have to wait for someone to die. So that wasn't going to work. Um, I had an offer with Peace Corps
Yep.
to go to Africa and work with real lions and tigers. And then I had an offer at a horse farm in Florida. You always wonder if you'd taken a different route, how things would work out. And then BLM offered me a job, Bureau of Land Management. And so I thought, you never know when another federal job will open up. So I went with that. So 2 weeks after I graduated from Cornell, I was in Las Vegas, Nevada,
Yes. Yes.
being a wildlife biologist. And so Ithaca, New
Out
York,
in the middle of the desert.
I dealt with Canadian geese and turkey and things like that, white-tailed deer. And
Mhm.
then I wind up in the desert with pupfish and desert tortoises and bighorn sheep.
There you go.
So that was my start. So I spent most of my career, obviously, with the Bureau of Land Management, 29 years total. And I worked in 6 different states. I was in DC twice with that. But in federal government, every once in a very rare moment, they give what they call an early out, in which you can leave based on the number of years, not your age.
Okay.
So having started right out of college, guess what? I had lots of years and not much age. So I got to retire very early from that and started my own PR company, which I still have, Denise Meridith Consultants, and continued on with private sector. So I did things, even when I was BLM, I'd started doing some of it, but working in the hospitality industry. So
Yep.
I did help with the stadium, State Farm Stadium here, getting that approved and built. Convention center remodel, Symphony Hall remodel, things
Mhm.
like that. But I've always had sports. I grew up in New York City, so I love sports.
Yep.
And some places I lived in BLM didn't have sports. So I started a youth sports nonprofit
Oh.
because one thing I saw that was lacking in sports is really, I hate to say it, a concern for the athlete themselves. So we sort of, raise them up to be athletes, use them up, spit them out.
Yes.
And not really pay attention to what happens to them afterwards, or the ones who don't make it all the way. And it's very rare, 1 in a million make it to the NFL, something like that. So I decided to work with kids to have them understand that you could be in sports, you don't have to be the athlete. In fact, you
Yes.
can make more money being the agent or the publicist or broadcaster, radio commentator,
Yep.
anything like that. So we work with student athletes, 12 to 18, try to get them to stay in school, lead healthy lifestyles, and be financially responsible. So I had that nonprofit for 14 years. At the same time, I had more for-profit. And then along the way, the academic came in off and on. Cornell, I've stayed very close with them. I taught online. I taught business for them, for executives, for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the past 4 years, I've taught for ASU sports marketing for undergrads.
Right.
So I'm a very, I guess, rare person in that I've been in for-profit, nonprofit, government,
And
and
private.
academia.
That's wonderful.
So, but it's been great. It's been fun.
Yeah, well, it could certainly give you a well-rounded, balanced view of life, doesn't it, generally?
Yeah, it's great. It's been great.
So, and this has obviously led to you creating ultimately the world's best connectors. Now, this is obviously going to be at the core of today's call, and we're going to be deep diving into some of the things that you're doing in that organization. Tell us how it came about.
How it came about, that's a good point. I sort of overworked to a certain point. We were having all these things running at once. I was teaching, had a nonprofit, had my own business, and so I stopped.
29 hours of a day.
I'm slowing down. Believe it or not, Rick, I'm slowing down. So it's like we have to be realistic about this. So
Yes.
I decided how I could use all of my skills to still help people.
Yep.
And build businesses. That's what I've always been about. Even in the Bureau of Land Management, not too many people know about that agency, but it's one of the few that makes money. It's number 3, I think, in making money. IRS, number 1, Minerals Management Service, number 2, and then there's Bureau of Land Management.
There you go.
Because we have fees for grazing cattle, oil and gas, all these things we do. So I've always been in that profit making
Yes,
mode.
yes.
Even when I was in government. And nonprofits, I think one of the faults that many of them run into is they don't run it like a business.
Yes.
You have to make money.
Yep.
And causes, you got the greatest cause in the world. If people don't support that cause and give you money to run it, it doesn't happen. So I've been, I thought, how can I put this all together? One thing that came to me too is I've come to the conclusion that the government doesn't work anymore.
It's broken.
Yeah, just a little bit. And I'm saying this as a government person, sort of born and raised. My mother worked for the government, federal government as well. And so it's discouraging because government used to be in the lead in a lot of things, and technology and all kinds of social issues, et cetera, but they aren't anymore. Yep. So it's set government, they're still very helpful. And I have strong relationships, my group, with government, but we'll put that to the side a second.
Yep.
Nonprofits, they're just having a hard time functioning, like for the various reasons I mentioned. So that leaves private industry. I think private industry can solve probably all of our problems if motivated to, if we get the right people doing the right things. So what I decided here, headquartered in Phoenix, though I do expect to be nationwide, is my theory is if you put 3 smart people in a room, good things are going to happen. So what I decided is it's a very small group. It's going to never be more than 50, 70 people total. There are people who don't have time for meetings. You have a lot of people, business people, you see them at luncheons, you wonder when they're actually working. but the people in my group, they're hard workers. They maybe don't have time to go to all these banquets and things like that. They're busy making money, probably. That's what they're busy doing. So as a result, I thought, okay, why don't we go virtual? Okay, the technology is there now. All the tools that we need are there now. So the world's best connectors is a virtual community and think tank for C-suite executives. Everything that we do is online. We use Zoom a lot too. It's a great tool. So everything we do is online. It's the initial contacts. I'm sort of a business matchmaker. I say, hey, Joe, a new person just joined. Why don't you talk to Tim? You guys have something in common.
Hence the name in many respects.
Yeah. And they can text, email, back and forth. We have a private sector for communications online. That's private. So just our group. People are afraid of, the secrets getting out and all of that type of thing. All very confidential. So my thing is, and I'm a firm believer in human connections, which we'll talk about in a bit too, but and shake hand deal. I'm an old school person, want to shake hand on a deal.
Yeah.
But by the time you get to Starbucks to shake hand on the deal, you'll be sitting there meeting somebody that you know you want to talk to.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-networking. I've created Black Chamber of Commerce and some other chambers and do a lot of work with chambers. So I'm not anti-networking, but some of the way people structure it is you have your business card. Okay, let me have like you take your little business card here.
Yes.
And you're going to walk into this room with 200 other people that have their little business card. And you're going to figure out who in that room of 200 is going to want your services. It's not logical, but
it's a card fest.
It's fun. It can be fun.
I've seen it. I've experienced it.
So I've gone to networking events because I wanted to see the new hotel or
get a free meal.
Yeah, you're right. If the food looked good or something like that, or I was going to meet some friends there.
Yep.
But the whole concept, and I'm not saying you can't meet people. If you just like meeting people, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about efficiency, efficient use of time, driving someplace, parking, paying for parking, paying for gas, it's not efficient. So with our thing, you're talking on, you're not wasting too much time, texting, talking online. So by time I meet you and I hand you my business card, you hand me yours, we pretty much know we've got something going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We know something is going to be useful. Not necessarily close the deal there, but you're very far along. You've saved a lot of time, saved a lot of effort, really are dealing with somebody I want to do. So I also put little groups of people together. So what's happening is, and I'm not I'm not that psychic that I can always put the right things together. But what I found is you have really intelligent people, they'll figure out connections that you didn't think of.
Yep.
So I've had people come together, like I had a printing company wind up coming together with people campaigning for office. It wasn't something I would necessarily just think about. But guess what? People running for office, they need a lot of printing.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So it's a synergy there.
So there is a match there that I would never have. I just never thought of it that way.
Yep.
So that's what we're doing. We don't, like I said, we don't have regular meetings. There's no every, Wednesday lunch, you have to be somewhere.
Yep.
Again, a lot of those are fine. They're effective for certain people, certain professions. The kind of professions I'm talking about, we're talking about technology, we're talking about development, a little bit of human resource staffing, people management. It's not necessarily, it's that effective. Some of these other, every get together, whether we need to get together or not, or have a board meeting every month just because we're supposed to have a board meeting every month.
Just because, Do you find that, is there like sort of a meet up offline at any stage with any of these groups? How does that part work?
Say it again.
Do you have meetups, physical meetups between people?
So what we do, and a lot of that is on the members. To start out, it's been on me just because of my background in hospitality, sports, different things like that. So we'll have sort of events, invitations to events. So again, people can come to them or not. It may be, but there's always an I believe in having fun, but there's always an ulterior motive
yes.
to the fun. So we have partners like ISM Raceway, so NASCAR. I've worked with them in my other business for years. So NASCAR weekend, I had an event called Doing Business with NASCAR. So that was open to we had a suite. It was open to the members of our group. So we had like 30 come and interact with the officials of NASCAR about how that works.
That's wonderful.
Okay. Something that they might not have thought about, the opportunities there.
Yeah, well, because it would open their mind up to new ways of thinking as well.
Exactly. Yeah, people think of NASCAR and they think the car is going, and some people are into that. The car's going around, and then other people think, oh my God, it's the most boring thing in the world. I love the business of NASCAR.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
It doesn't particularly matter to me who wins the race.
Yep.
Because that's not my bag. But to be around the people, the vendors, the fans, why they come, blah, 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 get more fans there, how you get more diverse people there. And that's a lot of what I've done in NASCAR, how to diversify their audience. Now that's exciting. So those 30 people had a great time, but at the same time, they learned a lot
A lot.
about new opportunities for business.
And I've not been involved with NASCAR at all myself, Denise, and I think to myself, just the dynamics of human beings in one place en masse like that. I
Yes.
understand why you get excited about that side. I
Yeah.
really do.
They have 100,000 people the weekend here
Just per
in Phoenix.
race.
Yeah. And and they have 2 weekends a year. That's it.
Wow.
But in that weekend, 6,000 RVs around the country. 6,000
Just a few.
RVs from around the country. It's, I mean, it still boggles my mind. Of course, I'm a person who still am amazed that the 747 takes off.
Yes, yes.
But it's there's so much going on there, so much that people don't know about.
Yep.
Another example, polo. Okay, that's another thing people know nothing about. I went to Cornell, which is a big polo school, so I knew about it. There's a young man here, Jason Rose, who 9 years ago decided to have a polo championship here in Phoenix.
As you do.
So, because there is a polo, believe it or not, there is a polo team here, but nobody knew about them either. But anyway, Jason did. So he decided to have this, and he has a PR company too, one of the biggest ones in town. So he decided to put on this event. And guess what? Now, in November, I think it was 2nd or 3rd, we had it this year, 11,000 people. It's the biggest in the world.
That's a big number.
The biggest polo championship event in the world is in Phoenix, Arizona.
The irony is just stark, isn't it?
So again, I had a couple of tables worth of WBC members, and they're like, huh? I mean, people are just, what? Well, one of them what polo was. Anyway, but then to come and see, and these 11,000, these are upscale folks.
Yeah.
These are Scottsdale, Paradise Valley,
Yeah.
LA,
The best of the best.
Vegas, upscale, upscale folks. And it's fascinating. And again, there's all kinds of opportunities there that people don't know about as well.
Well, you can see how this is all coming together for you, and it's obviously. How old is the organisation? How long have you been doing?
It's just a year.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you've done this much in that amount of time. Well,
yeah.
You're making some major
moves. We just had our annual conference, our first annual conference here. So we had that. Our main sponsors my main sponsor was ASU. So they've won the award for the most innovative university in the United States the past 4 years in a row. So they like this whole concept because it's something new and different. It's building business. They have a really good business school there. They're really big on sports.
Yep.
So a lot of things we're talking about. So I'm very grateful to Dr. Crow and Jim O'Brien as chief of staff there. They jumped on it right away. And they like that idea of redefining the 5 C's. Maybe for your audience, I should say that the 5 C's.
Let's talk about the 5 C's. We're going to get there.
We'll get to the 5 C's, but it's change. Arizona is undergoing great change. Great change. It's not to get into politics, but it's probably a purple state now. It's just booming. I think it's we have several of the fastest growing cities in the United States are in Arizona. So but I want to take advantage of that. Now's the time. People are energized.
While the sun shines, as they say.
Yes, people are energized. I want people who are looking to make a difference. Now's our opportunity.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
That's where we're from.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's fascinating how quickly you can go from a concept, an idea, and this is what the value for the My Future Business audience is, Denise, is that you can take a thought and transform it into a living, breathing entity as you've done. Now, Denise, I would love to go into the details of the 5 C's. Could you talk us through what they mean?
Sure. Okay. If you grew up in Arizona, which I didn't, but I knew about it when I got here, the kids are taught that there are 5 C's that form the basis of the economics of Arizona: citrus, cotton, cattle, copper, and climate. People today would go, huh? but Arizona historically was a agricultural state.
Yep.
So citrus and cotton were big. They had really huge orchards here. It was one of the flower capitals too at one time. A lot of the Asian culture here brought flowers and
Yep.
cultivation of flowers here. So it used to be really big at that. Cattle, used to be a lot of cattle ranches, particularly in the southern part of the state. Copper mining, copper used to be big. It's not so much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So when I moved here in federal government, again, I was with the Department of Interior, Bureau of Land Management. So we do copper and we do a little bit of agriculture, mainly facilitating a lot of the people to do agriculture. Bruce Babbitt, who used to be the governor here in Arizona, was the Secretary of Interior when I was back there. So he was excited about the thought of me coming to run Arizona because he said I'm good at transitions. Arizona needs to transition. They need changes are happening, whether they want them or not. Changes are happening, and they need someone to come and do that. So I moved out here in 1995, and I still did cattle. We still did cattle and these other things. Climate's wonderful. Climate's consistent. You don't have to worry about that.
Hot and dry.
Today it's like 75 degrees and sunny, so nice. So I came out and gradually did, and it wasn't me, but just factors, economic factors, we transformed more to a recreation tourism state. People always came here to sort of hang out,
Yep.
but now they definitely come out for the spas and sports. We have all the big sport events here, the Super Bowls, we just had the NCAA Final Four, that type of thing.
Yep.
So we're really one of the tourist capitals of the United States, definitely. So BLM, we switched. Cattle just was dying out. It was, just Mexico was raising cattle cheaper.
Yeah.
South America, et cetera. So we moved more into the preservation of lands, weren't being used. So we had, I was able to help designate 4 national monuments here. We designated the Arizona Trail eventually, which is one of the longest hiking trails in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Was able to reintroduce the condors, help reintroduce the condors,
Oh, wow.
endangered condors, to the Grand Canyon area, which is Park Service, but we work together with them. Fishing, Lake Havasu was not doing well for a long time. We're able to clean that up, and now they have bass fishing tournaments.
Yep.
People come from all over the world to go bass fishing. So we were able to do these really fun things. Now, however, cattle is pretty much coppers. We still have low copper. It's not doing that much. Cotton is definitely phased out.
Yep.
Citrus, just a little personal story here. I live on a street that was very pretty when I moved here. It was lined with grapefruit trees. And so for a native New Yorker to go outside and be able to pick a grapefruit off a tree, but I died and went to heaven. Okay? But here we are in 2019. I didn't realize grapefruit trees don't have a long lifespan with like 30 years. So they're all gone. And so all these orchards and everything that were here when I moved here to Arizona, they're pretty much, gone. Okay. And then, of course, we had housing development, and stuff going on like that. So what I thought we needed to now, and what I wanted to do with my new organization, is sort of redefine the 5 C's.
Yep.
Those are still important industries. I always have to say that.
Yep.
I still loved ranchers. I got along really well with the ranchers here. All of these traditional industries, they're all still here.
Yes.
They're also important. But I think for most executives, and we're talking business, profitable, for-profit businesses, you need a different 5 C's. So my new 5 C's are connections. So I think connections, partnerships, collaborations is the key to success. So my new 5 C's are 1, connections with family, which a lot of executives are losing out on. because again, that busy,
Yes,
running
always
around
busy.
all these events or whatever.
Yep.
So we need to make that connection. Connection to employees. That's become, used to be obviously you joined the company and you just stayed there for 30 years. And that was it.
That was your
Wasn't
life.
a lot of argument, wasn't a lot. Millennials don't stay anywhere for very long.
Transients.
Yes. New generations, well, X is not quite as much, but definitely the millennials and the Gen Zs, no. Okay, how do you deal with that as a corporation? How do you deal with that as a company? So here you have people that don't plan to stay with you. How do you attract them in the first place? How do you keep them? So the employee issue is huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. Succession planning. How are you? Who's going to take over?
Yes.
How are they going to do that? Those kind of things. Clients is the third connection. And that's more the traditional, but it's partnerships. Again, I like partnerships that you don't necessarily think about that can happen. So our focus on development issues and on the technology facilitate partnerships more so than anything else that we deal with. The human resources part I talked about, that's where the employees and family issues come in,
Yep.
dealing with those. The last two are government. Government is still there. And
it's hanging
still
on.
a factor. It's still a factor. And the Arizona Commerce Authority is one of our big partners.
Right.
We're trying to build businesses here. I'm trying to grow businesses that are here, but I'm also trying to attract new businesses here. And I'm also trying to just exchange ideas with different parts of the country and we can help each other. So that's more the traditional business realm. But government and things like ACA has a 5-year plan. So some parts of government are working. and
We're
working with them. So ACA is a great partner here. Sandra Watson is their CEO. And then the last one is media. And here I am. But I've actually spent a lot of time in media. I've always been a freelance writer.
Yep.
And reporter. So even then when I was in government, even when I was in nonprofits or whatever, I used to write for the Arizona Republic. I used to write for the Business Journal, examiner.com, and they're all fading. They're still, examiner.com totally went out of business. So a lot of newspapers are, just disappearing.
It's a shifting landscape, isn't it?
Yeah, the Republic and the Business Journal are still here. Business Journal is a partner, but they've changed their whole scheme. They're not that interested in columns and
Yep.
people writing opinion pieces, which is basically what I do. And they're forced to get advertised. They're really focused on advertising.
Yep.
Pay to play and all of that. So
Yep.
It's very different. And the same thing with television and local stations. It's a lot of pay to play. So it's not that, and it's I feel it's a big loss to the country, that whole investigative reporting.
Yes.
Even doing what you're doing here,
Yes.
we don't have enough of that.
Yes.
Not enough people talking about basic things
Yes.
that are important to normal people. It's not enough of that going on. So that's the part that hurts me. The media is fading in a lot of ways, but I'm hoping with some of our partnerships to be able to boost it in different ways. Maybe, again, podcasting becomes a new way. At our conference that we had, I had a young man come. He has this huge popular podcast here in town.
Mm-hmm.
Younger people are getting their information in a different way.
Yeah, it's the way we attract and consume, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And things that people think are obsolete, like radio, is not obsolete.
No.
It's changed.
Well, look,
And,
it's one of these things where we need to fly a new flag, isn't it, really? And
Yep.
you're doing wonderful work. It is a credit to you in that short amount of time with your experience, your knowledge. Most definitely, CEOs, CFOs, that level of leadership are going to want to work with you. So when it's time to start working with you, where are they going to find you and what is the process?
Okay. Well, first of all, they can look at our website. So it's www.thewbcs.com. So it's thewbcs.com.
Yep.
So they can take a look at our website. They can contact me anytime at World's Best Connectors, put an S on it, World's Best Connectors at gmail.com.
Yep.
That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. And phone number is 602-698-8060.
Fantastic.
And I'm really excited about the growth of this organization. Most people I talk to are very excited about it. It's a new concept, different way of working. And it's not for everyone. So I always make a point of saying that.
Yeah.
I've gotten pushback of no meetings.
What are you talking about?
Like
no meetings.
Some people like meetings. I sat down one time, figured out the 29 years I was in the government, I went to 19,000 meetings. I don't need
another meeting. And this is what I like about you. You're challenging, the status quo. You're coming in from a different angle. You're adopting, and diversifying new media types. You understand that this is a shifting landscape and people want different things for different reasons. And I'm pretty confident people are going to want to work with you very soon if they're not already. So, Denise, it has been an absolute treat, a pleasure, an honor having you on the My Future Business show with me today.
Well, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.